Now, from Atlanta News First, the issues that matter to you. This is On the Record.
We have a lot of clients who work jobs. They do work, and they do not make a living where they're working. And it just does not meet the needs, their food needs. So they have to supplement that with SNAP, and then still visit pantries.
Of all of the consequences so far in this now 29-day partial federal government shutdown, from delays in the nation's airports, national park closures, and staffing shortages, hundreds of thousands of federal workers furloughed, with several thousand others under the possible threat of permanent termination, will the issue of federal food assistance programs finally be the catalyst to break the political deadlock between Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill? That is the subject of today's On the Record national podcast here on Atlanta News First for Wednesday, October 29th, 2025, day 29 of the current partial government shutdown. I'm Tim Darnell. I'm very happy and thrilled to be joined this week by the hardest working political reporter in the nation, Doug Reardon. Doug, we're talking about the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Programs, possibly those benefits expiring as soon as November 1st. You've done a lot of stories and a lot of content on this particular subject. Where are we right now, and what is happening with the political backlash that is brewing among the millions of Americans who rely on these electronic benefit transfer cards, possibly known in a less vernacular formal term as federal food stamps or federal electronic food stamps? Where are we right now with this issue?
Yeah, it's a weird place for the 40 million Americans and the 1.4 million Georgians who are using these SNAP benefits right now, because they got their payments in October. And then right at the end of the month, in fact, just on Friday, we got an announcement from Georgia DHS that the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which runs the food stamp program, would not be replenishing people's accounts in November, and it's because of the government shutdown. This is a federally funded program. Congress allocates the money to it when they pass the budget, and they haven't passed a budget yet, and that was supposed to be done on October 1st. And so we are now just about a month past the deadline for funding this program. People got notice they will not be getting their payments in November. It can be anywhere from, we've talked to people who only get $23 a month from this, to families who get up to $200 a month for food assistance. And so they will not be getting that in November. Now, DHS was very clear with us that if they have any leftover funds from October, from September, or any other month before, they're able to use their current balance right now to make those grocery purchases, but nothing new is coming in November. And so for these families, and some even seniors that we've talked to this week, who not only just rely on this to supplement their grocery bill, but it is their entire grocery bill, this is really scary. And we know that food banks are preparing for this because they know that they're going to see a rush of people who are simply not able to buy food at all without this supplemental assistance. And we also know that lawmakers, this is one of the things that really has kind of shaken the dust off of this shutdown and gotten both Republicans and Democrats talking about how to fix this, because now you're talking about kids with no food, seniors with no food. Republicans and Democrats are using these supplemental benefits. And so, if healthcare isn't the thing, it seems like maybe food might be the thing.
Doug, you mentioned some of the reports that we're seeing out of locally here in Atlanta and out of Washington, D.C. Let's listen to two reports. First, your report from Monday night, and also last night, Tuesday night's report from our own Nehemiah Watson.
Well, Governor Kemp's office told us again today, after they told us this last week, that they can't use these funds on their own, especially to prop up a federal program. So Democratic state lawmakers here today said, no problem, let us help. They want Kemp to call a rare special legislative session that would allow lawmakers to come back here and vote to allocate reserve funds for SNAP. Another lawmaker even suggested Kemp declare a state of emergency to allow more access to state dollars. Lawmakers here today also expressing concern over overwhelmed food banks. We even talked to one hunger nonprofit director who says she's had to make adjustments to her food giveaways with the increased need lately.
With the SNAP being gone, now they're exhausted. Everybody's being exhausted. I have used SNAP myself, and so it's very heartbreaking that this is happening, and I really do hope our government can get it together.
And another important note for beneficiaries, the governor's office did confirm to us today that while no new benefits will be issued in November, people will still be able to use any leftover benefits they have from October, even after that deadline passes. Outside the state capitol, Doug Reardon, Atlanta News First.
Food pantries across the state are working to bring in as much food as possible right now, but they say they are already seeing more families come in as they prepare to lose those SNAP benefits. SNAP is federally funded and helps low-income households pay for food. Over the past week, Atlanta News First has spoken with people from a cancer survivor to senior citizens who rely on these benefits. The Journey Community Food Pantry in Rome says it's seen at least 20 new families each week for the past month, and that last week, for the first time, furloughed federal employees came in to get some food. Executive Director Debbie Crumbly says 60% of her clients use SNAP.
We have a lot of clients who work jobs. They do work, and they do not make a living where they're working. And it just does not meet the needs, their food needs. So they have to supplement that with SNAP and then still visit pantries.
State Democratic lawmakers are calling on Governor Kemp to step in and fund the SNAP benefits during the government shutdown by dipping into the state's reserve fund. But last week, Kemp's office said they didn't think they could use state dollars to fund a federal program. Reporting from downtown Atlanta, I'm Neomani Watson, Atlanta News First.
Doug, your report from Monday night where you were reporting on how state Democrats are calling on Governor Brian Kemp to call a special legislative session to fund Georgia's supplemental nutritional assistance program. That's our number one topic digitally on AtlantaNewsFirst.com. It's been far outpacing any of our other reports on our website. That really gives us a very clear insight as to how vital this topic here is in Georgia. What are the Republicans and Democrats saying here in Georgia regarding to these SNAP benefits?
Yeah, special sessions are incredibly rare, and so it is highly unlikely that the governor will call one for this topic in particular. Despite Democrats saying that, and not to mention activists also telling us that they want to see the governor dip into the state's reserve funds to use them to supplement the benefits that people are not going to be getting in November. And so that was kind of the genesis of the special session call. Here's the reason why. The governor is telling us he can't move those funds by himself. It's the rainy day fund. We talk about it all the time. There's $14.5 billion just kind of sitting there for whatever. The governor has used it before for property tax rebates and things of that nature, tax returns for citizens of Georgia. But he is right. He cannot move those dollars on his own. He can't just take it and move it to somewhere without the legislature's consent. And so that is why they asked for a special session. They said, get us back this week or next week so that we can help you move these funds around. The governor did not respond directly to us when we asked if he would consider calling a special session, but we know that Democrats and activists who are fighting for these food stamps and trying to find a way to make sure that people can get their groceries next month when they expire are really hopeful that the governor will find a way to use these funds. Now, the other problem, too, is that SNAP is a federal benefit program, and a lot of times states cannot fund federal programs on their own. And so we know that this week there's a lot of scrambling, especially in Fulton County, to try and get some sort of program set up where people can get payments from the county. But again, at the state level, that's just a little bit tougher to do without the consent of the legislature, and that's why they're saying, bring us back and we'll help you get this money to the people who need it. There was even a call from State Senator Nabila Islam Parks to call a state of emergency so that these funds could be released, because the governor would have a little bit more leeway to move them around in a state of emergency, which only he can declare. And so there have been lots of efforts from mainly Democrats to try and get this done and fund these benefits that people are not going to get when the calendar flips to November. Again, highly unlikely. The governor is in Korea this week. He should be back at any moment now, but he was not very responsive when we reached out and asked how he planned to make this happen, or if he planned to make this happen. And so my guess is that the shutdown will probably end before a special session happens here in Georgia to deal with SNAP benefits.
You mentioned Governor Brian Kemp in Korea, President Donald Trump wrapping up an extensive trip to Asia, and yet we're in day 29 of a very high-stakes contest of political gamesmanship. From your standpoint, who is scoring more political points? We have Republicans who are seemingly intractable in their position. We are not going to allow federally funded health care benefits for people who are in the or who have entered the United States in an illegal or a not so legal fashion. Democrats saying we support extending the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare subsidies for, in the case of millions of Americans who will see their health insurance premiums skyrocket. Now we have lower income Americans, even furloughed federal workers who we are seeing who are now relying on Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program funding to help meet their daily and weekly dietary needs. Democrats are saying we understand the pain that this is causing, and yet we are still standing by our commitment to extend Obamacare health subsidies. From your standpoint, who is winning the most political arguments, Republicans or Democrats?
Well, if you talk to voters, nobody's scoring points because they're really mad at all of these lawmakers, especially those federal workers that you mentioned, the TSA workers who are probably days from starting to walk off the job because they're not getting paid, the air traffic controllers who are already overworked that missed a second paycheck this week. Of course, that even boils down to Department of Education employees and CDC employees that we have working here in Atlanta. Everybody's really mad at these lawmakers that we've talked to. But if you're talking about perspective, it's kind of hard not to blame the party that could end this with a vote tomorrow, right? The Senate needs a handful of Democrats.
Which party is that?
Well, that would be, I think, in a lot of people's opinion, the Democrats, because, yes, Republicans certainly, barring any rule changes in the Senate, they don't have the votes to make this happen. They do need Democrats' help. And this is a weird position because a lot of times Democrats are incredibly anti-government shutdown. But in this case, they're the ones that are kind of carrying this out and withholding those votes in the Senate so that this shutdown can continue and they can continue to make the point about fighting for those Obamacare subsidies. And so I think a lot of people are looking at Democrats and saying, you could end this tomorrow. But they're also looking at Republicans because not only do a large percentage of Obamacare subsidy users, not only are they Democrat, Republicans use these too. And so I think there are a good amount of Republicans that are looking at their own party and saying, why wouldn't you just renew these subsidies? Why would you want to add hundreds of dollars a month onto our healthcare premiums? And so I think right now Republicans are in a better position because they can simply just turn around and say, we can't do anything unless the Democrats hop on board. And we know that certainly, I think now, 13 times?
13.
John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock have voted down, the continuing resolution that would fund the government for about a month and give people some breathing room and paychecks for that matter. And so, you can look at our emails just to get a tenor of how people are feeling about this. And a lot of blame is being put on Democrats. And we got the chance this week to question two Georgia congressional Democrats, Lucy McBath and Hank Johnson, on that very topic. And we kind of phrased it as, how much is too much? How long do you keep your hand over the flame before you end up hurting people? Because we talk about SNAP. Certainly that's become a big fear for people lately, but that's not even what the shutdown is about. It's about these Obamacare subsidies. That's what the holdout is for. And so we asked them, how long, do you let this go on before you end up kind of having a Pyrrhic victory here where there's more hurt than help? Hank Johnson was a little more forward with his answer in saying that he thinks Trump will eventually feel the pressure, especially going into a midterm year where, again, Republicans And that's something you'll hear Democrats say too. Republicans do hold the majorities in both the Senate, the House, and they have the White House. And so they certainly have more power here. But Democrats are leveraging it really, really well. And so Hank Johnson said that he thinks Trump will start to feel the pressure, negotiate with Democrats, and find a way to get those subsidies renewed. Lucy McBath simply just said that workers who have come up to her that talk about this shutdown are saying, you can let it go on as long as you want, as long as you get us those subsidies. And so that's what she's been hearing. Again, it's all anecdotal. Those are just 2 lawmakers out of 400 and something. So we, I think that right now Democrats are facing a lot more blame for this because they could end this with a vote tomorrow or today.
Well, today is Wednesday, October 29th, day 29 of the partial government shutdown. A reminder to watch on the record with Atlanta News First every Sunday at 11 a.m., co-hosted by Rick Folbaum and my comrade for today, Doug Reardon. Doug, you and I have not had a chance to really talk in depth about the show that airs every Sunday morning on Atlanta News First at 11 a.m. From your standpoint, tell us a little bit about what you're hoping on the record with Atlanta News First every Sunday at 11 a.m., what this show is all about.
Yeah, I want people to get context out of it. You watch political shows and we hear people say all the time, I don't watch the news, I don't watch political shows, it's just too intense, or it's people yelling at each other, and that is absolutely not what we're going for. Our panelists are people who are involved in politics, deeply involved in how to get messages out to people, and they're very good at contextualizing this. The people that we're talking to on the show know the people that we're talking about on the show. And so I think that when people tune into On the Record, they're getting not only context, but they're getting good information. I hope that when people tune in, they learn something, not just about the headlines, but maybe a little civics lesson for people every week. I think it's a really important time for this too, because we're going into a midterm year. We're actually in the throes of an election right now, a primary election for a couple of state legislator seats, a couple of public service commission seats. It is a really important time here in Georgia, and it will be going through 2026. And so we want people to be armed with a lot of knowledge going into that time.
Well, Georgia is one of the nation's premier political battleground states. Will be in 2025, 2026, and 2028 when another hugely important presidential election is just on the horizon. For Doug Reardon, I'm Tim Darnell, reminding you that you can watch and listen to all of our podcasts, including On the Record with Atlanta News First, on your favorite podcasting platform, and also watch on our YouTube channel.
Thank you for watching A&F Plus. For more breaking news, live coverage, and your community stories, download the Atlanta News First app. You can also watch us on YouTube, Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. To join the conversation on YouTube Live, visit our channel and hit subscribe. You can also listen to the Atlanta News First podcast by searching Atlanta News First on your preferred listening platform.